This is a preview file, for example use only.
Hi, I'm Sharon Blair with Portland Fashion Institute, and today we're going to be making an A-line skirt. Your A-line skirt is a staple of any wardrobe, makes anybody who's wearing it look good. You can have it in short length, or knee length, or maxi. Your pattern should give you all these options. If not, we'll show you how to shorten or lengthen your pattern to suit you. And along the way, we'll learn how to sew. Before we start though, there are certain things that you need in your toolkit. And the first of these is going to be your stainless steel pins. Now they have glass heads to them, so that in case you ever mistakenly iron over them, they won't melt and stain your fabric. You'll see we have this magnetic pin cushion so we can easily pick up the pins. Everybody should have a tomato pin cushion too. You'll see that I've marked mine for the various sizes of needles. And let's not forget that the strawberry has emery in it to keep your needles and pins sharp. Let's get a seam gauge. This is just a metal hunk, a little slider that tells you how to measure small things like hems. And then we'll need a chalk pencil. We prefer the chalk wheel. It makes some quick and easy marks. And a water-soluble marker. This is for light fabric. You'll use this for dark. Transfers information from your pattern to your fabric. Let's find ourselves a point turner. Curved on one side, flat on the other. Never use your scissors to sharpen up the corners of pockets or facings. And I know you'll never make a mistake, but just in case, let's get a seam ripper for some reverse sewing. And make sure it has a nice sharp tip so you can really get underneath those stitches. We'll need a needle. I know a lot of folks think you never need to change a sewing machine needle, but I do every time I start a new project. No need to ruin the project because I had a dull needle. You'll see that these are universal. They're stainless steel as well. Universal just means that it's good for most all fabrics. And the number is 80, that's European size. 12, that's American size. That's right in the middle. Size 6 is small for fine fabrics like silk. 16 is thicker for heavier fabrics like denim. So we're choosing a size 12 right in the middle. Today we'll put in a zipper, so we need to get some Washaway Wonder Tape, 1/4 inch wide, and this does indeed wash away with the first laundering of your garment. It's double-sided sticky tape, very helpful for those zippers. When it comes to cutting, let's get ourselves some good quality stainless steel scissors, knife edge blade, 8-inch blade there. Use those strictly for your fabric. All-purpose shears, again 8-inch blade. You'll use those for paper like your pattern. And for good thread hygiene, let's get ourselves a pair of nippers. Cut those threads just as soon as you pull that garment out of the sewing machine. I like to keep mine on a leash because it's just terrible when you can't find your scissors in the middle of a project. We also have our tape measure, 60 inches long by 5/8 of an inch wide, because that happens to be the standard home sewing seam allowance. Very handy for quick measurements. When it comes to pressing, and yes indeed you will be pressing every time you make a seam, let's start off with our ham, wool on one side, cotton on the other. This will be used for your cotton fabric, and most everything else. We'll say this for the wool, and doesn't it look just like an Easter ham? If you're doing fine things, you might want to step up and get yourself a seam roll. Again, wool on one side, cotton on the other. And we swear by the clapper. It's a piece of hardwood, oak or maple, for pushing the steam into the seam. You may also want to step up and get a sleeve board. This elevates your pressing away from your mat, and we like to use a press mat that's just muslin and wool on top of a piece of plywood. Helps you press big things. Press cloth, we'll talk about how to use this later, but it's just a hunk of muslin or other cotton that isn't printed or colored. And of course the main thing for pressing would be your iron. Make sure it has a lot of holes for steam so you can get a lot of steam into your project. Fabric. When you're going to the store, you're going to be looking for 100% cotton, and it's going to come in bolts of either 60 inches wide or 45 inches wide. Be sure to look at the end of the bolt to make sure it is 100% cotton, and the width of the fabric. If you're unsure, have the person at the counter measure the width for you. These are wovens, so with all wovens you're going to have what we call a selvage. This is a hard edge. Even though it has a little fringe on here, it does not ravel. And oftentimes you'll see this white band, or you'll see the name of the manufacturer on there, or even some color dots to show the colors that are used in printing that fabric. The selvage is the way it's laid on a loom, so it is very stiff. It's going to drive the way your garment hangs on you. So the grain line that's on your pattern needs to be parallel to this selvage, or your garment will hang crookedly. Not attractive. Between the selvages is the cross grain. And that's the part that has some stretch to it. The grain line, the selvage, very stable. Cross grain, very stretchy. So this is obviously the part that needs to go around your body. Sometimes this is also called the warp, and the fill is called the weft. So warp for straight grain, weft for cross grain. Now, 45-degree angle between the selvage and the cross grain is called bias. Very stretchy, a little hard to control, but we'll learn some techniques to handle that. Before you buy your fabric, let's give it some tests. I call them the 3Q or 3 qualities test. First of all, you're going to hold it up to the light and make sure that you don't see any slubs or holes. That means it's a really well quality fabric. Then you're going to be squishing it. 30 seconds in pressure and steam are going to tell you how often you're going to have to iron that fabric. Particularly if you're making a skirt, think about sitting down and then you're creating wrinkles. It may not be an attractive look for you. The last test is let's push our thumb. Push it hard. The sales associate will come by, say, "What are you doing?" You're saying, "I'm giving my fabric the 3 quality test." And then put it on your hand. If it's a big mound there, think about every time you sit down on that garment. Then you stand up. Your garment will still be sitting down. Now let's talk about thread. Let's be sure that the thread you choose is the same color as the background color, the predominant background color, or a shade darker. Be sure to choose 100% polyester, not cotton, because you are going to pre-shrink the fabric. The thread will not. And the first time you throw it in the wash, that cotton thread will shrink, puckering up your seams. Don't use rayon. That's for machine embroiderers. It's very thin, so the first time you sit down, you'll bust out all your seams. Choose 100% polyester. This is one continuous strand wrapping around this spool. Don't choose cotton wrap polyester, because every time that needle goes through your throat plate of your machine, you're going to be shaving off some of that cotton wrapping. This is what you want to use to make sure that you have no dust bunnies, no thread breakage. Makes your sewing a dream.